Oh, another sad season. Another disappointing playoffs. I can't believe it, man. Cannot believe it. It's unbelievable. I have a there's a lot of things that I have an issue with right now. I hate that the NHL turns the playoffs into this barbaric version of hockey where skill is eliminated and the referees are called in favor of people trying to hurt people and hook, hold, grab, do whatever it takes to just stop the goal from happening. But the NHL complains about not enough goals being scored. The game is not entertaining. Well, the game's not entertaining because McDavid's at home, Crosby's at home, Ovechkin's at home, Matthews is out. Where is the talent in the playoffs? But you know who gets rewarded? Teams like Montreal, teams like the New York Islanders. It's not about building skill. It's about building a team to hurt. And, you have a bunch of grunts that just want to put a shovel in their hand and shovel the puck into the net. The NHL is always going to be small fry. Not like other sports where they allow their superstars to be superstars in big moments. But the NHL loves barbaric version of hockey. Just hurt, just hurt people, crash and bang. What a waste of a $5 billion sport. That's what the NHL is, man. It's sad. So I put some of this on the NHL. I put some of this on the Leafs. I mean, I don't know how many players you can lose to injury and still try to compete. I mean, no Muzzin, no Tavares, Felino's hurt. Anderson didn't even get a chance to play. I don't know why Anderson. I've been saying this online for weeks and months. Anderson has to get a chance to play in the playoffs. Anderson has to get a chance to play in the playoffs. When you're up 3-1 and Campbell falters and he loses two straight, you start Freddie Anderson in game 6. If he falters, you go back with Campbell in game 7. Not that you keep Campbell in net, an unproven piece of shit goaltender with no talent whatsoever. And this guy just lets in soft goal after soft goal after soft goal after soft goal after soft goal. I don't know when this fan base is ever going to learn, man. You guys fell in love with Jack Campbell so quickly. You guys gave up on the guy that got you here. Like this. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable how twisted this fan base can be, man. Just give up on Freddie Anderson. Now guess what's going to happen? Freddie Anderson's going to leave in free agency. He's going to sign somewhere else. He's going to put up amazing numbers and he's going to win playoff games and he's going to win playoff series. And guess what? Next year, you're going to have to go into the season with Jack Campbell and some other garbage backup goalie like David Riddick. And the Leafs are done. The Leafs are done. And, you got to get rid of Mitch Marner. You got to get rid of Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is not a superstar. Mitch Marner is not elite. He can't make a play to save his life. Over 100 opportunities on the power play, can't make a single pass to score a goal. Mitch Marner is a garbage hockey player. This whole Marner and Nylander conversation that's been happening for the past couple of years, That's over. That conversation has been put to rest. Nylander is better. Nylander is paid less. He scores more goals and he scores more points. I don't care what you say Marner does in the regular season. It means absolutely nothing. This guy hasn't scored in 3 years in the playoffs. I'm very upset with Mitch Marner. He needs to go. I don't care what you trade him for. Get his $11 million off the books, man. Get this guy's $11 million off the books. Mitch Marner is a loser. He doesn't have the skill to play in the playoffs. He doesn't have the skill to make plays on the power play. He had 2 power play points in his last 31 regular season games, Mitch Marner. And he had 1 power play point in the playoffs. If this guy's such an elite playmaker, then he would have made some plays, and then maybe the Leafs would have scored some goals on the power play. But because he's a zero non-threat to shoot, because he can't shoot, because he doesn't have an NHL shot. If you don't have an NHL shot, I don't know how you can be an NHL player. How can you be an NHL elite superstar if you don't have an NHL shot? Explain that one to me. How is he elite? How is he a superstar? How is he better than Nylander? But he doesn't have an NHL shot. He can't shoot or score to save his life. This is not a problem with Shanahan. This is not a problem with Dubas. This is not a problem with Sheldon Keefe, even though I hate Sheldon Keefe for playing Campbell for as long as he did. This guy is not going to get the job done. He was never going to get the job done. This was a very weird regular season. It was very unorthodox. You know, he wasn't playing good teams. The Ottawa Senators are shit. The Calgary Flames are shit. The Vancouver Canucks are shit. And so, he racked up a bunch of wins and some nice numbers. You have to be able to identify pedigree. And Jack Campbell, as a 30-year-old who struggled in the AHL, who struggled in the NHL, has no goaltending pedigree. But you know who did have goaltending pedigree? Frederik Andersen. All you Leaf fans, all you Jack Campbell lovers out there, all you're going to see next year in the playoffs, you're not going to see the Leafs in the playoffs because Jack Campbell and probably David Rittich are going to be the 2 goaltenders, and they're not going to take you there. You're going to see Freddie Andersen in either Pittsburgh, or you're going to see him in Minnesota, or you're going to see him, I don't know. I don't know where he's going to end up. But wherever he ends up, he is going to win. And he's going to put up good numbers. Just like he did in Toronto. 9-3-6 against Colorado. Against Columbus in the play-in last year. And he put up a 9-2-2 against the Bruins in 7 games. Those are more than enough to be called a good goalie. All the things you complain about Frederik Andersen, Jack Campbell did 10 times worse. You think Freddie lets in a 1 weak goal every now and then? Guess what Jack Campbell did tonight? He let in 2 weak goals. Game over. That Gallagher wrist shot should never go in. But, he's not a butterfly goaltender. He's a hybrid stand-up who thinks he's Jonathan Quick at 30 years old. Dude, go sit down somewhere. What a joke. Just another year where the other team didn't win, but the Leafs lost. That's all that happened. Mitch Marner can say all the right things, about I want to be a Toronto Maple Leaf and I want to win for the city of Toronto. Bro, listen, Mitch Marner was outplayed by Pierre Engvall. Get him out of town. He hasn't scored in 3 years in the playoffs. Mitch Marner needs to go. You know, we traded Andreas Janssen and Kasperi Kapanen because they didn't score in the playoffs against Columbus. So now Mitch Marner had 3 years and great line mates, and he couldn't get it done. So bye, Mitch. I will personally start a campaign, and you're going to see it on every single platform, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, every platform that I can. I am going to advocate and I am going to start a campaign to get Mitch Marner off of this team and away from the Toronto Maple Leafs logo. This guy does not deserve to wear the Toronto Maple Leaf logo. He's a loser. Mitch Marner is the biggest loser to ever lace it up. Tonight, I would have rather David Clarkson dressed instead of Mitch Marner. I take Dion Phaneuf over Mitch Marner. I take Phil Kessel over Mitch Marner. I take Nathan Horton over Mitch Marner. You know, P.A. Parento, Clark Wilm, Wade Belak, Tyler Bozak, James Van Riemsdyk, Joffrey Lupul. I take any one of those guys in their prime over Mitch Marner any day of the week and twice on Sunday. The live streams, um, to be honest with you guys, things got crazy hectic, and it took a while to get to get everything sorted out for the streams. But starting next year, we'll start we'll start doing it again for the streams next year. Maybe we'll definitely do the draft. We'll definitely do free agency. We'll do those streams for sure. So stay tuned. I think the draft lottery is like this Wednesday or something like that, June 2nd, and then expansion draft, all those things. I'm gonna try to stream as much as I can. You guys tune in if you get a chance, and then we'll do a nice off season of streaming all the big important events, and then we'll go into another regular season that's ultimately going to end in disappointment. World Juniors, yeah. I will. I'm gonna stream as much as I can, man. Yeah, it's a brutal loss. All right, it's a brutal loss, and it's it's one of those things where a fan base only deserves what it asks for, and you guys ask for Mitch Marner and Matthews to be put together in the regular season, something Babcock wouldn't do, but he got fired because he wouldn't put Marner and Matthews together. And they did put Matthews and Marner together in the playoffs, and guess what happened? The result wasn't good. So maybe Babcock knew what he was talking about. You know, the same fan base that wanted Jack Campbell in net and forget about Freddie. Hey, what did Jack Campbell accomplish that Freddie hasn't? Nothing. Freddie Anderson should have played game 6. Jack Campbell, he let in 2 weak goals tonight. Every single game except for the shutout, he let in weak goals. Freddie Anderson wasn't that goalie. Freddie Anderson had tons of good games. It's not like he let in a weak goal every game like Jack Campbell. Like every game like Jack Campbell. But you know what? When you got Carey Price on the other side, making the normal saves. And guess what? Gallagher comes down the ice, puts a simple wrist shot on net looking for a rebound. And guess what Jack Campbell does? He thinks he's Jonathan Quick at 30 years old. He's a stand-up hybrid goaltender. And the puck goes 5-hole on a weak goal. So the game is over. Yeah. I sincerely hope that there's nobody out there talking about Leafs re-signing Nick Foligno because he was garbage. Nick Foligno, at 33 years old, is done in the NHL. The guy looked slow. He looked weak. He looked hurt. He looked like Joel Thornton at 37 or whatever his age is. This offseason better be eventful. Mitch Marner has played his last game as a Toronto Maple Leaf. Get him out of here. I don't care what you trade him for. It doesn't matter what you trade him for. You know what I'm saying? If you have cap problems and you don't have enough money to sign Hyman, then you go ahead and you trade Marner to make sure that you keep a guy like Hyman, and then you build with more guys like Engvall and Nylander who actually show up, who actually score goals, who actually get points. Mitch Marner is nothing but fluff in the regular season. I don't care if you score 3,000 points in the regular season and you win every single NHL trophy, but then you disappear in the playoffs. You're nobody to me. I never fell for this Mitch Marner nonsense. 2 years ago in Toronto, when Marner needed a contract and he was an RFA, there was an actual conversation in this town on the TV, on the radio, on every single platform that you could possibly imagine, where they said, hey, Mitch Marner is better than Austin Matthews. If you were one of those people and you advocated for Mitch Marner like he was actually better than Austin Matthews, if that was an actual belief that you held within you, then you should never talk about hockey again. Hockey is not for you. You have no idea what talent is. Don't ever, there is no place on the internet, no place in social media. I don't care if you're on hockey forums boards, you're on Instagram, Facebook, I don't care where you are. Don't ever put Mitch Marner in the same sentence as Austin Matthews or William Nylander. Ever. This playoffs proved to you who the studs are on this team. Austin Matthews, number 1, William Nylander, number 2. And, if Tavares wasn't hurt and he was playing, he'd probably be in that top 3. Mitch Marner, behind probably Morgan Riley in terms of significance on the back end, is probably 4th on the depth chart of this team. Absolutely, he was playing with a lingering wrist injury. But even beyond that, Austin Matthews was getting bulldozered off the ice by 1 or 2 guys every single time he touched the ice. John Tavares wasn't the problem. there's nothing wrong with John Tavares. Don't put this on him. He wasn't on the ice when the Leafs gave up a 3-1 series lead and lost the series. Don't put this on John Tavares. This has absolutely nothing to do with John Tavares. It has absolutely everything to do with a playmaker making $11 million. There is no such thing in the NHL. The best playmaker in the NHL is Nicholas Backstrom, and he makes $9 million. So that's the cap for playmakers. And the fact that this guy makes $11 million is a complete joke. Nobody has ever paid a playmaker this much money. Matthews doesn't need Marner. He doesn't. Nobody needs Marner. Marner, for the last 31 regular season games, he was able to post 2 power play points. If Mitch Marner was elite and he was a playmaker, he would have made a play on the power play. He would have been able to make 1 pass that ended up inside the net. But Mitch Marner never made a play. Mitch Marner, the elite playmaker, the magician, in over 100, go count how many power play opportunities the Leafs had in the last 32 games of the regular season and in the 7 games of this series. And if you add them all up, Mitch Marner had 3 power play points. You know why? Because he can make a play. He can't pass it. Name one time. I want you to point to 1 pass Marner made in the playoffs where the puck went from one side of the net, ice, to the other side of the ice, and Matthews got a 1-timer. 1 time. Show me. Where is the highlight where Mitch Marner makes a pass and the puck ended up in the net? Show me. This elite playmaker. Show me. Mitch, we have an $11 million a penalty killer. The $11 million penalty killer. And guess what this $11 million penalty killer did? He was standing in the middle of the ice with nobody even close to him. All he had to do was wrist the puck down the ice, and guess what Mitch Marner did? He's like, let me deposit this puck into the seats and put my team down 5-3. 5-on-3. Marner has never scored 30 goals. Marner had 16 goals last year. This guy's not even a 20-goal scorer, let alone 30-goal scorer. Mitch Marner can't score goals. This guy doesn't have an NHL shot. Evander Kane is greater than Marner. Bro, everybody on the Ottawa Senators is greater than Mitch Marner. That is, saying somebody is greater than Mitch Marner is a very simple. It's a very simple thing. The guy has one job, is to make plays. And he didn't, and the Leafs power play was atrocious this year. Why? Because Mitch Marner doesn't have an NHL shot. You can't be a superstar in the NHL and be an elite player without an NHL caliber shot. So if you don't have an NHL caliber shot, you can't be an NHL superstar. It's literally, it doesn't matter. Marner is the biggest, most irrelevant player in Toronto. Marner sucks. And listen, he's dragging down this team. This guy is getting first-line minutes with Zach Hyman, who's literally just... This guy grinds out every single shift. He's had 2 messed up knees, and he's still grinding out shifts. I don't expect Zach Hyman to score. Zach Hyman, his job is not to score goals. His job is to forecheck to separate players from pucks and get it to the skill guys. But Matthews in his rookie year with Nylander scored 40 goals. Listen, Shanahan, Dubas, Keefe, they're not going to get fired. None of these guys are going to get fired. It's not their fault. Well, it is their fault. I've always said this, and I'll maintain this. The one big mistake, the only big mistake that Kyle Dubas ever made was signing that Mitch Marner contract. All they had to do was tell Mitch Marner, go sign in Arizona for $11 million, or you're staying in Toronto for 8.5. 8.5. Yes, that is the max for Mitch Marner. The max. Mikko Rantanen makes 9.29 million or 9.25, and Nick Backstrom makes 9. Both those guys are in a whole other stratosphere compared to Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner should never get a cap hit higher than $8.5 million. Okay? Colorado is a great team. Colorado has Mikko Rantanen. He shows up. They have Gabriel Landeskog. He shows up. He's a great grinder. That guy scores goals and gets points the old-fashioned way. And Nathan McKinnon is just uber talented. And they have a young defense, and they move the puck. Now, Seth Jones is not the answer in Toronto. You guys have to learn from the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Going after Seth Jones or Tyson Barrie, even Morgan Riley, I don't want Morgan Riley on the Leafs anymore. Morgan Riley doesn't do enough as a franchise stud. You know, you see guys like Hedman, you see guys like Ekblad, Hedman, Petrangelo. You see some real studs who do a lot of different things for their teams. And Mitch Marner, Morgan Riley doesn't do enough. And, you know, he's probably going to want anywhere between $6 to $7 million. And bye. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He still has value. He's a good player. Boom. Trade Morgan Riley. Open up money. Let Sandin, Liljegren play. And let's go get some guys like Radko Gudas. I want Danny Savarin in the lineup. It's not about skill anymore. We've seen what works in the playoffs and what doesn't work in the playoffs. What the refs favor grunts. They want barbaric, old school, I'm going to break my stick over your skull hockey. Okay? The refs are always going to make Montreal better. They made Montreal better than Pittsburgh. They made Montreal better than the Leafs. They made the Isles better than Pittsburgh. They made Boston better than Washington. Obi's home. Crosby's home. Malkin's home. McDavid's home. Matthews is out of the playoffs. There is no skill in the playoffs. All the superstars are out. The Leafs need to dress big, nasty. I am going to hack you in your knee. You're not going to walk tomorrow. I am going to break your skull on the ice. Leafs need to go out and get those guys. It's nice that the Leafs have prospects like Robertson or Amarov, but Leafs need to get big, tough, and ugly. I mean, real tough and ugly. Like stories like Jason Spezza and Joe Thornton our feel-good stories in Toronto. But stop adding skill in your bottom six. Go get some big guys and just let them hit. Let them hurt. The Montreal Canadiens didn't lose a single player. We lost Tavares. We lost Muzzin. Foligno's got back problems. You know, it was a war, and all the casualties were on our side. There was a war out there, and all the casualties were on the Leafs side. Why? Because the referee said it's okay if you headlock this guy and give him a running bulldog into the ice. We don't care. That's what we like. So the Leafs need to go play that kind of hockey. It's okay to have a couple of skill guys. All you really need is Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares. That's all you need. Matthews, Nylander, Tavares. That's all you need. Go get yourself a decent goaltender. Jack Campbell isn't it. David Rittich isn't it. Michael Hutchinson isn't it. But you know, at the end of the day, Galchenyuk didn't start the series, but he was put in there and he coughed the puck up in overtime. Dermott didn't start the series, but he was put in and he coughed the puck up in overtime. The Leafs depth guys, instead of trying to do the grunt work, dropping the puck into the zone and going out and fucking decapitating somebody, what did the Leafs depth players try to do? They tried to do pull skill moves. And what did the skill moves do? They screwed the Leafs. Sorry, Dermott. You're not a skill player. Sorry, Dermott. You're not going to score goals on the power play. Sorry, Dermott. You're never going to be a 40-point defenseman. This guy's contract is up. Get him out of here. Dermott, Riley, gotta go. Marner, gotta go. You know, man, if you think the Leafs are going to go into next season with Jack Campbell as their starter with zero insurance behind him, you might as well not even watch next season. There's going to be no playoffs. Yeah, man. You're welcome for Barabanov. Barabanov couldn't get into the lineup in Toronto. You know why? Because we like to see skill all over the ice. We want to see 41-year-old Joe Thornton playing skill, pulling skill stuff on the fourth line. We want to see Jason Spezza on the fourth line. We want to see, Barabanov was an excellent talent that we traded away for nothing. And guess what? What did Barabanov score? 10 points in 10 games or something like that? Leafs couldn't score in the playoffs. And they traded away Barabanov. And they traded away Lehtinen. Because Lehtinen couldn't get into the lineup. Why? Why couldn't Lehtinen get into the lineup? Because of Travis Dermott? What the hell did Travis Dermott ever do to tell you that this guy cannot come out of the lineup? Travis Dermott is another fucking loser of epic proportions. Travis Dermott has been given multiple opportunities to flourish and become a regular, and he hasn't. The definition of insanity. The definition of insanity. Keep putting the guy out there expecting different results, but you're doing the same thing over and over again. Leaf fans need to understand that skill stays at the top, and you have skill. You have Nylander, you have Matthews, and you have Tavares. Okay. And you have a bunch of prospects with skill. Amarov, Nick Robertson, Lekkonen. There's Gogolev on the Marlies. You have guys with skill waiting to make the transition. And you have Sandin and you have Liljegren. So it's time to put the Joel Thornton away and Spezza away. We need more guys like Simmons. We need more guys like Bogosian. We need more guys like Muzzin. These are the guys that showed up in the playoffs, and they made a difference. But the other guys, the Thorntons, Adam Brooks, you know, these guys didn't make a difference. You're right. You're absolutely right. Muzzin can't be the toughest guy every night. And Bogosian did a lot of good work in the playoffs. I was very pleasantly surprised this season with Bogosian. Bogosian needs to get re-signed. And Hall is a good defenseman. He can be tougher. He needs to get tougher. He needs to smash people in the playoffs. You need to put a guy into the board so hard that he thinks twice the next time. You know, based on everything I saw, Matthews did a lot. He was being mauled. It looked like he was a piece of steak and there was six bears out there. Every single time he touched the puck, two guys would smoke him no matter where he was on the ice. There was interfering, there was hooking, there was holding, there was tripping, there was everything. But if they're not going to call it, why don't you take advantage of it? No, it's Simmons and Bogosian. They're definitely serviceable players for the amount of money they make. If you free up Marner's $11 million, Matt, you know how much depth to the lineup you can add? Like there are a lot of players out there that you can go and get with that $11 million that are going to add toughness, grit, defensive play, and they're just going to play their games. Like there are some players in the NHL like Muzzin, like Bogosian. They're always just gonna come out and play their game. Like Jason Spezza has a knack to play his game and to make it effective no matter who the opposition is. And that's why he was effective in the playoffs. Joel Thornton can adapt to fourth line minutes. It's just not possible for him. Spezza made Adam Brooks better. Spezza made other players better. That's the good thing about Jason Spezza. Like it's plain to see after the playoffs. Your goaltender wasn't good enough, and the guys who are supposed to make plays to create offense never made a play. No, I don't want any of the Kachuk brothers on the team. Those guys are rats. Those guys are losers. That's not the toughness I want. Matthew Kachuk in Calgary wilted this season. He didn't score. He didn't produce. He was a sideshow, and it hurt his team. He's another form of Nazem Kadri, and you don't need that. Yeah, like Nikita Zadorov is a good defenseman. He's one of those guys who keeps it simple. All I want is a defenseman who plays defense. Travis Dermott tries to do too much. You can easily replace Morgan Riley with Sandine and not miss anything. But you need to open up money. Like the Leafs need to actually open up. The Kachucks are so overrated. They suck. Unfortunately, it's time for the Leafs to understand that skill, the Leafs have a lot of it. They don't have enough of the other stuff. They don't have this killer instinct that goes into the playoffs. See, the Montreal Canadiens, because they have zero skill, and I mean zero skill, they were bitching, moaning, and complaining about Cole Caulfield. What did Cole Caulfield do in the playoffs? I didn't notice the guy once, other than when Galchenyuk put the puck on his stick in overtime. Whoop de doo, you made a pass with nobody around you. Cole Caulfield is a loser. This guy's not going to be a superstar. He's not going to be the next Austin Matthews. Don't let Montreal fans tell you that this guy scored more goals than Austin Matthews and then in the U.S. National Development Program. It's Cole Caulfield is just a loser. But when you don't have skill, you're forced to play the grunt game, and perhaps and that grunt game can neutralize skill because the referees allow it to happen. Oh, Ekblad for Marner straight up. Man, I swear to God, if Ekblad for Marner was an option, not only would I personally buy Ekblad a mansion in Toronto, but I would buy Marner a first class plane ticket out of Toronto. That's what I would do. Yeah, there's a lot of dumbass GMs out there that would take Marner in a heartbeat. Hey, listen, uh, tell me right now if you called up the losers in Buffalo and said, "Hey, we'll give you Mitch Marner," they would absolutely jump at Mitch Marner and they would give you a lot in return, okay? They need something in Buffalo to help their fans cheer up a little bit because it's bleak in Buffalo. You call up Buffalo and be like, "Hey, you want Mitch Marner?" Not only Buffalo would buy out Skinner just to trade for Mitch Marner. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some bad teams out there. Like, if you called up Arizona and said Mitch Marner can be your guy, Arizona would do that deal. And I would gladly take Phil Kessel back. Yes, I would. I take anybody over Mitch Marner at this point. Ooh. I would take Sam Reinhart. I would take Jeff Skinner. No, there's a lot of guys that would take Mitch Marner out there because, you know, hey man, I would trade Mitch Marner for Eichel in a heartbeat. Eichel is a freight train. When he hits top speed and he's coming at you, oof, watch out. Jack Eichel is a freight train who can put the puck in the net with force. You need a guy like that in the playoffs. I would love to put Eichel on the wing with Matthews or just put them on the power play together. It would be absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't matter if he has a no move clause or a no trade clause. You just tell him you're not playing in Toronto anymore. Please provide us your list of teams. And Marner would gladly hand over that list. The cap's not going down. I don't know who told you that. The cap will never go down. Holy crap. The NHL cannot drop its cap the year Seattle comes in because what budget are they working with? The one plus for the Leafs is they got a cap genius working up the cap for them. Jack Eichel's gonna have a long career in the NHL. This next stuff with Jack Eichel is just an excuse for him not to play for the Buffalo Sabres anymore and ask for a trade out of there. This is all that is. This is a guy creating excuses to get the hell out of Buffalo. Yeah, the NHL lost $3 billion. So what? But the NHL has fans in the stands right now. Some stadiums are packed. It's full to capacity in the United States. They're gonna make some of that money back in the playoffs. Don't you worry. They're selling they're selling merchandise like nuts online right now. Oh, believe you me, Jack Eichel is not going to be in Buffalo for long. Believe you me. With a team like Seattle coming in, you do like a wink, 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 nudge, nudge. I can see players like Marner, Bobrovsky, Eichel end up in Seattle. The NHL, the NHL cannot drop its cap. You know why? Because they need the players' approval, and the players won't give the approval. So that's not going to happen. You can't just drop the cap because you want to. No, I don't think I honestly if Toronto goes the route of protecting four forwards and four defensemen and one goalie, it's going to be Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, maybe a Kerfoot. You got Riley, TJ Brody, Hall, Muzzin. That's four. And you got one goalie, probably Jack Campbell, because Freddie's a free agent. You don't have to protect the free agent. So, you know, I can see the Leafs exposing a player like Marner. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You take this player, we'll make a trade later. If you can get if you can get Ryan Ellis out of Nashville, we will trade you or expose Mitch Marner and blah 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 blah. Um, a lot of things like that happened with Vegas. I mean, look at the way they got Jonathan Marchessault and Alex Tuck out of Florida. Um, they racked up draft picks like crazy because they were like, we're going to take this player. And they're like, no, please don't take this player. And they're like, well, we'll give you a first round pick if you don't take this player. The NHL is a cesspool of cap circumvention. You guys have no idea. If people keep complaining about the cap and oh, the Leafs are cap screwed and all. I'm never worried about it. With all of these cap problems, the Leafs added Foligno, Brody, Bogosian, Simmons, Thornton. Ilya Mikheyev got re-signed. Alex Galchenyuk got $1 million got added. We got David Rittich. And people say cap problems all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't ever see the Leafs have a problem adding players or re-signing their players. So you keep saying cap problems, and I don't see it. Hey, if the Leafs need to sign a free agent, guess what? They just signed another Russian. Guess what? They just signed another goaltender out of Europe. Oh, we got Vevalainen for Lettinen. The Leafs don't have problems adding players. All this cap circumvention stuff is nonsense. Yeah, the Florida Panthers got fleeced. Yep, the Tampa Bay Lightning are way over the cap, but the cap doesn't exist in the playoffs. But yeah, the first year of Marner's new contract and Matthews' new contract, the Leafs were like at like $100 million. You know, the Leafs took on David Clarkson and Nathan Horton to pay for the first year of Mitch Marner's cap. The Leafs were like at like $105 million on an 81.5 million cap. This is what you guys don't get about the cap, man. It's easily circumventable. The cap is not as solid as people think. It's easily worked around. Tampa is huge over the cap. I'm checking right now. I think the Tampa Bay Lightning currently spend more money on forwards than the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Tampa Bay Lightning are spending $59 million on forwards, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are spending $57.5 million on forwards. So, again, I hear a lot of complaining about the Leafs spending big time money on forwards. The Tampa Bay Lightning are there. They put Tyler Johnson on waivers. Nobody took him. Nobody helped out Tampa in the off season. They're like $7.5 million over. Well, yeah, Tampa put Kucherov on LTIR for the whole season because why? They needed that $9 million. They were over the cap by $7.5 million. It was a lot of money. Holy. The Tampa Bay Lightning used 17.3 million of LTIR this season. 17.3 million in LTIR just to be able to get through this season. Some nights they didn't have enough guys to dress. Why? Palat makes 5.3, Gord makes 5, Tyler Johnson makes 5, Cirelli makes 4.8, Cologne makes 4.4. Hey man, that's $20 million right there. To be honest with you, I don't think Galchenyuk is a second line player. Galchenyuk, at best, is a good option on the third line. If you have Kerfoot, Ingval, Mikheyev in the mix there, Galchenyuk isn't a frontline guy. I would love to go out and get a Ryan Reeves, Evander Kane, just a whole bunch of guys that just punch you in the face for no reason. For no reason. You listen. Here is the actual blueprint Boston Bruins, one line that can score at an elite level. Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand. The rest of the team is losers, grunts, grinders, just guys who play defense and can maybe score a goal if they slide with their whole body, take out the goalie, and put the puck into the net. That's what the Boston Bruins are, and it works. Because one line gets the calls and creates the power plays, and the rest of the lineup just keep punching you in the face and punching you in the face and punching you in the face. You know, and if you go on Cap Friendly and sort by defensive spending, the Boston Bruins are in the bottom 5 in defense spending. They don't spend a lot of money on defense. It's a bunch of guys nobody's ever heard of. Because it's not about skill. Find the guys who can play the system that you want them to play and be consistent. At the end of the day, whether you have Kerfoot or you don't have Kerfoot, it's not a game breaker, right? Ingval is good. Galchenyuk is good. Nylander is good. Matthews is good. Tavares is good. You can create a top 6 out of that. Kerfoot, you know, he started the playoff series on the wing, so he's not a center. He's a loser. Get rid of him. $3.5 million. Spend it somewhere else. But the bottom 6 of this team has to be remade into something nasty and vicious. Nasty and vicious. I'm thinking like Ryan Reeves, Evander Kane, Tom Wilson. Get all those guys if you can. Just create a team that will literally. You won't have enough guys to dress by the 3rd game of the playoffs. That's what wins. Forget all this dipsy doodle nonsense. Let me dingle dangle between your legs. Go inside, outside, top corner. That stuff is all regular season. That stuff doesn't matter. It's not, the NHL has deemed that not real hockey because it's a whole different game. It's a whole different rule book in the playoffs. Don't pretend like the same tripping call in the regular season is going to get called in the playoffs. I will take my stick and break it over your shin, and then maybe the ref might look in your direction, but it's not going to get called. It is what it is. It's another shitty season. The Leafs have disappointed us once again. We'll talk about it. We'll get through the draft. We'll get through the World Juniors. We'll get through free agency, and then we'll get through another regular season, and then we'll see what happens. But I'm done hyping up guys like Jack Campbell, who's a loser, Mitch Marner, who's a loser. I'm done with these guys. I don't want them in a Leafs jersey. I don't want them anywhere near my team. Listen, Draper, McCarty, and all those guys in Detroit, if you don't think they were goons, listen, those guys were all about, punching you in the face when the ref wasn't looking and hitting you spearing you in the stomach and slashing your stick in your hands and breaking fingers. Like Draper, McCarty, you can't spend as much time as they did in front of the net and not hurt people and protect yourself by, from getting cross-checked and hacked and whacked. Those guys had to be just as dirty as the guys who were trying to defend them. No, man, Soupy is garbage. Jack Campbell let in 2 of the softest goals in Game 7. Freddie Anderson wouldn't have done that. Freddie Anderson is the goalie with the pedigree. He has a Jennings. He was 4th in Vezina voting 4 years ago. Freddie Anderson 2 years ago was eighth in Vesna voting. That's the real goalie, not the loser who never did well in the ECHL, the AHL, or the NHL. A 30-year-old who plays 10 good games is not the guy that's going to save you in the playoffs. Leaf fans don't understand. I don't understand why you fall in love with these losers. Yeah. Campbell is Patrick Lalime. Exactly. That's a good one, Lars. All right, guys. Unfortunately, I'm emotionally and physically exhausted. And we're going to pick up this conversation soon. I'm going to do another stream where we're going to come up with all the ideas of how we would change this team and throw out some trade ideas in the coming weeks. And then, we'll see where the Leafs end up come the draft and free agency. Have a good night, guys. Sleep well. It's only sports. At the end of the day, I'm going to move on to something bigger and more fun tomorrow, and I'm not going to think about the Leafs for a while. You guys should do the same. Stay mentally happy. Enjoy the great weather in Toronto.